Yeah, so hi everyone. So in today's episode, I want us to understand how do you move data from one screen to another. So with me here, I have an application called Kasha. It's a payment platform. So you can go check it out on Play Store if you haven't really heard about it. So how do we move money from this wallet to this wallet? So for example, I want to send money to Ninja. So we use stickers at Kasha to send money. So for example, Timz Owen is sending money to this other guy, that is Ninja. So I'll just come to send money, Kasha, and I will input in the sticker Ninja. So once you do next, so you get the Akikisha screen. So don't mind about the names. So once I click on proceed, how does this data move from this screen to the pin screen where we authenticate this application? So for example, let me send 15 shillings. So I just click there and confirm. Don't mind about the pin, these are test environment. So this will validate my pin, and then it's going to tell me it's successful. So once I click on done, it's going to deduct my balance, of course, when I refresh. And if I refresh here, so we add 452 shillings. So we see now we have 467. The same thing. If I wanted to request money from Teams Owen and I am Ninja, so I'm just going to come here, say request, and then I'm going to request Teams underscore Owen. Send this guy a request, confirm, then just input in my pin. So these are, oh, sorry, I'm requesting too much amount. Let me just request 25 shillings, then confirm, then I'll just input in my pin. So yeah, I'm just sharing my pin because it's just a test environment. So this one will actually send the notification to this guy. So I would want us to understand how does this kind of data move. So if I refresh on this guy, you see I already have a request. So this guy has requested me the money. So I'll just come here, view details, and then confirm. And then I think the pin was 456654. Then I'm going to send that. So you see the transaction is successful for wallet Ninja. So once I click on done, you see my account is deducted here, and this guy will be deposited the amount. Yeah, so basically, I want us to understand how does all this magic happen behind the scenes, that is moving arguments between screens. So join me in this. Make sure you subscribe and click the notification button for more videos that are coming about navigation. Well, guys, so I hope you've checked out the previous video where we talked about navigating between screens. In today's episode, we will be seeing how do you pass data from one screen to another one. So we have previously, so we had screen A, B, and C. So we were able to move from screen A to B and to C using these three screens where we defined our composables and everything. And then we also had our navigation graph where it handled everything to do with navigation. So in today's series, so we will be discussing how does arguments move between the screens. So maybe from home screen to navigation, and from navigation to home screen, and then from navigation again to profile screen. So navigation will be controlling how we move things between the screens. We are going to use the same project. So I'm just going to create a different one. So under the UIs, I'm going to create a new package, call it navigation arguments. So we want to understand how we can pass the data between screens, so from first screen to the next screen and to the other screen. So also I'm going to create another file. So let's call it home screen. That's file. And let's just create two screens. So another one called, let's call it profile screen. On profile, so again, I'm going to enable the preview to enable us to see what we are building. So we're going to introduce something called text fields. So first things is to just build the basic here. So home screen, and then build a preview for this. So you just go preview. We need to check to see the background, so which will be the color. The background color usually white. So just a home screen. I'll name it home screen preview, then call home screen here. Okay, so the next thing, I'm just going to use a column here. And for my column, I'm going to pass in a modifier. We talked about the modifier being able to help you add more properties to whichever composable you want to. So we're gonna say field max size. And then of course, as you can see, it's saying that our preview is outdated. So that will just basically give you a preview. So once that's done, as that is loading, so we're gonna continue building on ratio, then there we go. So the first thing you're going to do is we need an editable field where we can input in our first parameter and probably maybe the second one. So first, let's have a title for this screen. So this one, I'm just going to pass in a font size of maybe let's say 30.sp, and then our text, which is home screen. Yeah, now we need to position it at the center and horizontally. So just there, align this one. So we need to do vertical arrangement, arrangement.center, and then we want to do horizontal alignment. So we want to align it horizontally. Okay, just a second. Horizontally to alignment horizontally. So I'm just going quickly through because these are some of the basics. So our main focus is to study navigation. So we're under some space. I'm going to do just modifier. We do modifier dot height. So if you do a height of, let's give it a height of dp. So remember the SI units, not SP, but the dependency fixtures. So remember, the SI unit for font is SP, and this other one for padding and everything else is DP. I'm going to make it 40. It doesn't now, okay, no, font size. Okay, font size can still remain the same, but I want to add here some 40. Now, you will also need a button to allow us to submit the data. So on click, that lambda is now plain that way. Then our text, maybe let's say, go to profile. Go to profile. Or you can just say profile. So we can ideally just say profile. Oh, just profile. So that when you click on your profile, you're able to see your name and maybe your balance. If maybe you have some money. So again, remember the column stacks children from top to bottom. So we're just going to have a text field. So text fields allow us to, as you can see here, it allows us to check when the value is changing and have an initial holding value. So I'm just going to do a text field, and we have something called on value change. It's a function, lambda function. And the other one is the value that we want to hold. So for now, we would want to hold a value of a string type. Then when this value change, we will need to update it. So the other thing we can do is to add label to enable a user to know what he or she is expected to input in. So for the label, maybe you can say name. So name. Okay, let's just have name. Okay. So this one is a lambda with text in text and say name. Now, if you need to see other properties of what this text field is, you just hover your mouse and you should be able to see we have everything from leading icon, placeholders. This is something we will venture later on into, but for now, we're going to duplicate this field. For now, we just focus on navigation. Now, the next thing could now be, let's say, your balance or maybe your score. Let's say you are working with the student portal or something like that. So we now need to add some little space here. As you can see, they are really squeezed. So we're just going to copy the modifier here and just paste this guy here and maybe do like 10, not so big. Okay, we can do 20. We also done, so we could still paste it here, just add some spacing. Yeah, as you can see, we now have home screen, which once you run the application, you should be able to see these inputs. You're able to edit the inputs. So the other thing could be changing the navigation here. So we are using main navigation, which was previously on this other one. So I want us to add another file here called navigation. So navigation, let's just call it nav-args graph navigation graph arguments. Sorry, You can always find a good naming. So we're just going to do that and put in a composable and just say app navigation arguments. Now we will need to now replace this with this guy here. Then just import. So we're done with the main activity, back to our navigation graph. Now, before we even go to the navigation, so I would want us to finish up with the other one, that's the profile. So once you're done sending this, you need to, once you click on this, you need to send this data to the recipient screen, which is the profile. So you just go to the profile and build this now. So composable, let's say profile screen, and then we'll just need let's copy this, paste it here, add a preview, and then show background, make it true. So if I'm going fast, you can pause and slow down. So we just add here a preview just to make this one simpler. And then also say profile screen. Profile screen. There we go. So if you now preview this, let's say we have a column, and that column will obviously take in a modifier, which we're going to say modifier fill max size. Just fitting the screen here. So I'm going fast because our main focus is not to build a composable. So our main focus is on the UI, on the navigation, sorry. So the next thing would be on just here. The next thing will be on vertical arrangement, which is arrangement dot center. Okay, yeah, center. And then the next one would be horizontal alignment dot center horizontally. Now, the next thing we're gonna do here is we are getting data from the previous screen. We need to pass them here as the arguments or rather parameters for this guy. Now, we will need a text to hold that to display. So first thing is let's build, let's define which screen we are in. So we're in profile screen. And maybe you can increase the font size to maybe 30.sp. Can just do text here. Makes things easier. And then, so we call this the named arguments, where you define the name instead of auto completion. I'm gonna add some little bit of the spacer modifier. I'm gonna do a modifier dot maybe a height of 40.dp, and then see. Okay, and then we're gonna have some two texts. So text one, text two. So our text here is gonna hold the name and the score. So we're just gonna have another text here, and we will define. And then are we talking about score? Or score? Maybe our score here. Maybe let's just start with a string for now. So here we will say name and including your name, then score, the score, and have your score here. So ideally, I don't think there's anything left here to do with the profile. So we can just add some preview here. You can see it's requiring a parameter for name. So maybe you can say Timz, and maybe the score is maybe 400. So you can see from the preview. So ideally, we can increase the font here, font size to maybe 20.sp. Yeah, and there's same here. We can say font size maybe 20.sp. So we can see we're in profile screen, and we're just using the preview here to see the kind of data we will be receiving here. So this data, that is the name, and the score will come from the home screen. Now, let's first build the navigation, and then we will come back to deciding how the data is going to flow. So on the home screen, we need to pass this data here. That is the initial data and the updated data. So on value change, when the user starts typing in on the keyboard, this data will need to be updated. So maybe we add default value of 0 or something like that. So we need to persist these, and to persist that, so we need to introduce something called remember. So that this will remember the value across recomposition. It's going to say val, let's say name, then you're going to say by remember this one. Then we can have mutable state of a string as our initial value. So we need to import the get and set value for this. Otherwise, we're going to face some challenges. Actually, it's going to be a variable because we'll need to update it. Otherwise, we won't need the set. So we're going to need another one for score. Sorry, I'm used to Java. But remember, also do backend. We're going to have them as two states. Now, here on the first text field here, we will have our name, and usually the lambda we usually have it. So if you don't specify the value here, it is used automatically as your default value. So we're not going to change that. Maybe yeah, you could still name it as name, and then maybe just come and update it here later on. But this one you can just, to make it simple for now, you can just say name equal to the value that is going to change from there. Same thing here for score. We're going to do score. Then the next thing again here we're going to do is update the score value, or depending on what the user has made as the input. So on click, we need to pass this data using a nav controller to this state. And remember, in this other screen, we introduce something. So instead of you passing the nav controller on your, on your composable here, on your composable function. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to avoid using navigation here. So we're going to create a callback variable function that will be used here. So back to navigation, back to home screen, sorry. So we're going to pass in another callback. So we're going to say on navigate. Then this will of course return default units. Now here we need to pass in the name and the score. So those are exactly what we're going to do here. So we're going to pass name of type string. And then we're also going to pass a score. Now it's a type of string value. So here on click, when we call this callback here, we're going to say on navigate, and we're going to pass in the name, and we're going to pass in the score. Right, it just looks cleaner when it's this way. So up to this point, we are okay. So don't think we need preview for now. Don't want to add any other values here. So when we launch, of course, it's going to break because we haven't defined our journey. We haven't defined our navigation. Oh, it's still successful. Let's see. It's going to be empty because even we're not navigating to anywhere, our navigation class is empty. Back to the navigation. So remember what we said. Our step one in navigation is to the first step is to insert to instantiate the remember nav controller. So we're going to say val nav controller equal to remember nav controller. So the next step, which will be step 2, will be the nav host. So instantiate your nav host and declare what's needed. So nav host, remember to take one that has start destination and yes, this one. So start destination. So what we're going to pass here is our start destination and our nav controller. So we're going to say nav controller. So because our naming convention here is we are using the name nav controller, we don't have to basically come here and say again nav controller is equal to nav controller and then proceed. So ideally, if the variable name here is similar to the expecting named parameter, you can just remove this. Oh, sorry, you can just remove this guy here, the nav controller. And then you can now go with your start destination, which ideally was maybe home screen. Now, we need to pass our step 3 is now to declare the composables, or rather our screens, where we will be pointing them to. Yeah. So we're going to say composable, the one that has the roots. we're gonna say, so instead of specifying the root here again, automatically Android Studio does that. So we can just directly go to, just come and say home is your root, and then home screen. Okay, we've called the home screen, and then we're gonna do this now. Now, if you click this and go back to home, you see we're expecting an on navigate callback. So we go back here and say we pass in on navigate, and given that we are not passing anything here, you can just remove these guys so that we can only focus on navigate. Just gonna put this on a new line, then this on a new line. So this is for composable home. I'm gonna do the same for so I'm doing a lot of copy and paste because it's basically what we've done in the previous video. So for this one, we have profile. We're gonna name it profile, and here we're gonna do say profile screen. Profile screen, yes, correct. And the profile screen expects name and a score, so we don't need on navigate. Yes, up to here. So we'll come and handle this later. So first, let's finish up with this home screen. So the first thing here is to pass in the arguments needed by the profile screen. So I'm going to say nav controller dot navigate. So we are navigating to profile. Sorry, profile screen, and the name and the so we're going to say name and score. So we're going to say here name, comma, and score. Pass them as lambdas here. So we are done with the home screen. So of importance is this is expecting on navigate, which has two parameters. So that is a string and another string. So that's why we are naming this. So you can name this however you want, but make sure that they're reflecting the same convention here. So that is for home screen. Now on the detail screen, so what we need to do here is we need to fetch these data from the previous screen. So what we're going to do here is first thing is we're going to define the root, and then we're going to pass in the arguments. So so the root is profile, and our arguments is a list. So we're gonna do a list of nav arguments where the name is name. So we need to specify the type of this. So we're just gonna say type, say nav type. This is a string type, capital S, string type. So the other the other nav argument is a score of type, still a string. Now we're just gonna say nav type of string type. So ideally we are done with this fetching this data. Now if you go to profile screen, you see we still need to fetch this data and the score. And by default, we talked about it being the default lambda expression here for most of this. Now, we could name it backstack entry, which is used by most, which is recommended by the Android team. But ideally, I'm just going to leave it to it so that we can save on time a little bit from there. So we're going to say the name equal to it dot arguments could be nullable dot get string, and that string will contain get string of the key type name. The other guy was score. So I'm gonna say it dot arguments dot get string of key score. So there's something here wrong. So so we haven't made them nullable. Just make them both nullable, or ideally we can just leave them as not nullable. So that should do it with the error. And we now need to pass this. I think we had done that. So if we now launch, we're expecting that we launch on our home screen. We have an error. So let me check where the error is. I'll just scroll here. So let's see, the issue is cannot set profile for destination, name and score missing. Okay, interesting. So this is the problem here. So we need to pass in, and we will understand later how this is happening. There is a better way to do this. So name and score. And then this one should be the and, not this one, sorry. This is part of creating the root. So if we now try run the application, we should be good to go. Yes. Now we have name here. So you can see Timz. Score is 900. Go to profile, you see we have the name Timz and the score is 900. So basically, this is how you do navigation with passing arguments. So in the next video, we will introduce sealed classes. So you see, we've experienced problems, especially you see how we are passing this string. So this is not a good idea. So, but the Jetpack team have really made an advancement on how navigation works. So later on, we will understand how serializable work. So we have one more video before we dive into how we're going to use routes and serialization and also nested graphs in building amazing navigation. But first, we had to build these basics. See you in the next episode.